I was just wanted to give a shout out to Conra Kami. She did all the little gym heads that you see on the videos that I do. You can visit her over at conrakami.deviantart.com. Thank you, Conra! The Die Hard trilogy is a staple of the action movie genre. Wow, I mean, is it even a trilogy anymore? Pretty sure there's been more than 3 movies now. If you're not familiar with the movie series, it's basically this. Hardened, tough-as-nails NYPD Detective Lieutenant John McClane is minding his own business, i.e. visiting his wife at work, picking up his wife from the airport, etc., etc., when terrorists attack and John winds up in the middle as the reluctant hero who tries to stop them. McClane has a habit of, well, not dying. Hence the title of the film series. McClane also attracts trouble like honey attracts bears. I'm just kind of surprised they let him keep his job for so long with this kind of track record. Needless to say, the Die Hard movies were blockbuster hits, so of course it would make sense to make video games out of them, right? I mean, if you can get away with making a Saturday morning cartoon about RoboCop, you can definitely get away with making a Die Hard video game. Well, actually it's games, plural. The one we're going to be talking about today, as if you couldn't tell by the name of the video, is Die Hard Trilogy for the PlayStation. Mostly because I have fond memories of this game and I actually owned it once upon a time ago. I mean, unless I blocked out bad memories like another certain game I did in a past video. Die Hard Trilogy was released in 1996 by now defunct video game developer Probe Entertainment. It offered 3 different games spanning the original movie franchise. Each one offered different game mechanics. While the game was in development, Probe Entertainment originally planned to just release a single game based solely on Die Hard with a Vengeance. However, the publisher Fox Interactive insisted that the game should tie into the other 2 movies as well. This led to the developer to include the other 2 games based on the first and second films, and sort of just mushing it together in a 3-in-1 sort of game. First up, Die Hard.
NYPD! Hey, this isn't even my jurisdiction!
Oh boy, we got some interesting in-game graphics going on here. Hey, don't get me wrong, I know this game was made back in the day, but I know that the PlayStation 1 was one of the pinnacles of 3D gaming, but I mean, come on, jumping Jesus on a pogo stick. It's like they were trying to combine sprites with 3D models that constantly clip and tear. Oh man, I just don't look close at the faces, that's all I'm saying. Yo, John, you right there? You, fighting too many terrorists lately? I mean, you don't look so good. The first game is a third-person shooter. The player controls McClane throughout Nakatomi Plaza, rescuing hostages and battling terrorists. That's pretty much it, really. You're gonna have fun with this game, but good lord, you might have a few issues to deal with. I mean, I've noticed that the controls are a bit cumbersome for a shooting game that requires the utmost dexterity. It takes forever to rotate. McClane sometimes has issues with the environment. The camera isn't always helpful, too. The aiming is also a bit of a pain. Well, I say aiming, but in reality, there isn't much actual aiming to be done here. You just sort of turn McClane towards an enemy, fire your gun, and hope for the best. It's actually really tough to gauge where McClane is actually firing his gun, so if you end up needing to reposition him for a better shot, you'll most likely get hit by 1 or 2 bullets before you actually kill him. Or in my case, a baker's dozen. Which leads me to another issue. You get shot. A lot. I didn't have an easy time playing this game, that's for sure. I mean, you get a sidestepping ability and a tuck and roll ability, which can be useful when you want to get away from enemies or catch them by surprise around the corner. Seriously though, keeping your distance is the easiest way to get through the bad guys. If you try doing it up close, it's practically impossible to avoid getting shot. Oh yeah, and there's a bomb that you have to actually defuse once you kill all the bad guys in any given floor. You have 30 seconds to get to it, otherwise it explodes and takes away a life. Or if you don't have any lives left, it'll be game over and you'll have to start from the beginning. Thankfully, unlike other games, Die Hard Trilogy actually lets you save. However, you'll want to do it often because if you forget to save after a while, no matter how much progress you've made, boop, you're thrown all the way back to the last point you saved. So if you beat 7 floors, well, get ready to do them again. Wonky controls and questionable gameplay aside, it's actually pretty fun. All the levels have been inspired by the events of the first movie. I mean, heck, you even get to see the armored car on the first floor. It's just not engulfed in flames. Next is Die Hard 2 Die Harder, which is a first-person rail shooter. Apparently some light guns were compatible with this one, but I just stuck to the controller. It mirrors the plot of the movie for the most part, though it does take a few, creative liberties. Like the first stage? I don't remember McClane having this much of a ridiculous battle in the main terminal in the movie. I mean, half of the terminal is literally engulfed in explosions and taxi cabs come crashing in. I don't remember any of this happening in the movie. In fact, the entire game is pretty much like that. Taking moments from the movie and reworking them as stages within the game, just making them more ridiculous and more crazy. I like it though. The developers came up with rather elaborate and crazy ways to make the gameplay interesting, albeit absolutely nuts at times. I mean, you get snowmobile shootouts, shooting inside a plane and then shooting outside of the plane, presumably inside a helicopter while shooting at other helicopters, and parachuting terrorists? Man, the 90s were a different time, weren't they? This is definitely harder than the first one. You're essentially a bullet sponge as you try to take down all of the bad guys on your screen before they have a chance to riddle you full of holes, a la Virtua Cop. It's hard to move the aiming reticle from one enemy to another, especially when they're practically on the other side of the screen. And it doesn't help that oftentimes it feels like the reticle takes forever to move. God dang it, move! Come on, move! Move faster, you dang death circle! Reticles over enemies are sometimes highlighted. One would assume that that means that the enemy is about to fire, and if you kill them first, it'll keep you from getting hit. Oh, sweet summer child. In reality, the highlighted reticles mean diddly squat. Other enemies sometimes fire before the highlighted ones do, so shooting the highlighted ones doesn't always pan out. Just like in the last game, you should save often. I can't stress that enough. Once you run out of life, that's it. You're dead. Game over. And unlike the first one, there are no additional lives or anything. So you only get the one. If you don't save, you'll end up right back in the beginning, and trust me, that'll be just incredibly frustrating. Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirty and gritty. We're talking about Die Hard with a Vengeance next. The last one based on the third movie of the film series. The original trilogy, anyway. However, it's not a third-person or a first-person shooter. In fact, you don't shoot anything at all. You don't even get a gun. Instead, it's a driving game. Yep, you essentially drive all over New York to defuse bombs before the entire tri-state area explodes. Now, I'm sure you must be asking yourselves, how exactly are you supposed to defuse a bomb if the game doesn't let you get out of the car and do it?
Why me? What has this got to do with me? Go, go, go!
You ram the car into the bombs to defuse them. I mean, what do you want? It's an arcade console game made in the 90s. Would you rather have McClane and Zeus get out of the car, measure some water jugs, then get back into the car, rinse and repeat? Have you seen the 3D models that they use for this game? Do you want more of that? I don't. I don't like it. The controls in this one is just like the first game, as in it's a little tough to maneuver sometimes, though the controls are definitely not the worst part of the game. Obstacles in your way are usually cars and trucks, and sometimes they freaking just form a blockade. Those wouldn't normally be a problem if you had a map or if the compass told you exactly where to go, but that leads to the next problem. The truth is, the compass on your HUD only tells you the general direction of the next bomb. So for 99% of the time, you're blindly driving, not sure of which routes to take because some straight up lead to just things you can't get past or things that make you even slower to run out of time because it's all timed in a timer, and if your current route might not even take you straight to the bomb. It might lead you someplace else with no turns to turn towards it. It can be very frustrating. Saving, as I've said about the two other games, as usual, is crucial. Especially because I think this is the hardest of them all here. Hardest of the three. If the obstacles or routes don't get you, the controls and the lack of solid physics will. Have I not mentioned the physics yet? Oh my god, the physics are atrocious in this game! Cars can be bumped into and bounced around like bumper cars. Trees are made of obsidian, so you can't, once you hit it, you're stuck forever. The game does throw you a little bit of a bone, and it does have Zeus directing you sometimes when you're getting close to a target area. So at least you have some manner of way to know which way to go.
Cut left up here. Cut right up here. Don't stop, don't stop.
Regardless, save regularly. Oh, and I'd like to also point out that the last stage of this game requires you to launch your car into the air and crash it into an NYPD helicopter that supposedly Simon apparently hijacked. You do it until the helicopter's dead and explodes. I mean, how else you gonna end it? When you finally beat all three games, you're treated to a unique thank you screen and credit sequence, complete with a group picture of the development team. And that, my friends, was Die Hard Trilogy. Questionable controls, questionable physics, questionable gameplay, but hey, a great game despite all that. I mean, there's lots of reasons why this is one of my all-time favorite games. The dialogue alone is amazing and hilarious because it's literally nothing but catchphrases.
Yippee-ki-yay! Ho, ho, ho! I've got a machine gun! Happy trails. Want to stay alive? Stay with me. This is not my day. Hey, I must have been a good boy. Best Christmas bonus I ever got. Someone give me some aspirin.
The music is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite all-time, I know I say that term a lot, but it's one of my all-time favorite video game soundtracks to date. Surprisingly mellow, yet still action-packed. I haven't heard anything like it since. I still haven't. And although it can be a pain sometimes, well, let's be frank, it can be downright frustrating, I still had fun with it. I don't know if it's because it's a legit fun game or if it's because I'm just enjoying the nostalgic factor, but, you know, I'm willing to bet it's a little bit of both. Just bear in mind that if you aim to beat the game, it's gonna take you a while. But hey, you'll get treated to actual endings and your score will actually be recorded. Unlike some interesting pieces of trash that try to sell themselves as video games based on a beloved franchise. Anyway, thanks for watching, and remember, yippee-ki-yay!